Hi guys! So One Book July is officially drawing to a close, and I thought that it would be fun to give you a recap of the zany adventure that I've had over the course of the month. My interpretation of One Book July this year has been a kind of fusion of version 2.0, the project, and version 3.0, Go Big or Go Home. So I decided to use a different planner or notebook every day for the month as my daily planner. A daily planner is something that I've had for a long time, but usually I've used a single planner or notebook for at least a few months at a time. And so for July I decided to go the completely opposite direction and just use a different one and have fun getting to use all of the notebooks and planners that I have either been saving for a special purpose or that I started to use for one thing and then abandoned and put into the graveyard. So over the course of the month I ended up using 16 planners and notebooks, mostly undated notebooks, but a few dated planners as well. So I started off using a different planner or notebook every day, and I carried on that way. So no 2 days were alike, except that some days I didn't use a daily planner, and that's just because I was too busy or I was away from home all day or for some reason just didn't need one. So that's why it ended up being 16. I did keep up with this over the course of the month, but towards the very end of the month, I kind of started flagging with my enthusiasm because I'd basically run out of new planners and notebooks to try and was kind of getting to the dregs of my collection, by which I mean planners that really weren't suited to daily planning at all, and I'll show you a couple of those, or notebooks that I didn't want to open because they were new, but I had already used a very similar one earlier in the month and it just didn't seem exciting, or there was no point, or really seemed like completely the wrong size. So I ended up with roughly one book every 2 days on average, right? 16 for 31 days. And over the last couple of days, I have to confess that I have gone back to using my very favorite, which I will show you in this video. So I'll first quickly go through my less favored notebooks and tell you why I didn't like them as much for daily planning, or I'm kind of neutral about them, and then I'll show you my favorites. So first of all, the ones that I'm kind of neutral about, like they were fine, but I didn't really love them. And interestingly enough, there are 3 of these, and in all, actually, this one goes into that goes into a different pile. There are 2 of them. So these 2 are both undated notebooks. This is a Leuchtturm A5, and this is a Moleskine Large, which is like an A5 Slim, kind of. It's like an A5 but a bit narrower. And I love these. They're fantastic notebooks. In both cases, the reason that I didn't absolutely love them is because I had already used them previously for something else, and so they didn't feel as exciting. Which I know is a ridiculous reason, but full disclosure, that's the truth. With this one, the Moleskine, an additional reason that I wasn't like totally in love with it was because it is very unfountain pen friendly. As you can see, this is the side I wrote on, and this is the bleed through. So really bad bleed through. But it's a dot grid, which I love, and this is a great notebook, so I will definitely use it, probably for daily planning again, or else just for notes. The Leuchtturm, same thing. It was really just because this had been used for another purpose previously, and so I kind of felt like it didn't have the same excitement as opening a new notebook. But that's all. It wasn't its fault at all. It was a great notebook. This one, the 365 Daily Planner, I really like the look of this. I bought it on Amazon kind of on impulse because it looks so cute and it has these adorable illustrations. And I'm not sure why I didn't enjoy it. The day that I used it, it was fine. It was a good size. It was okay because it's undated. I could have used as much space as I wanted. Maybe it's to do with the paper. The paper quality is not the best. I used the same pen for all of these, by the way, a Parker 51 medium nib. So it's kind of interesting because I really got a very good idea of which notebooks worked well and which ones didn't in terms of paper quality and just the feel of writing. So this is not the worst paper quality. It's not quite as bad as the Moleskine I just showed you, but for some reason I just didn't enjoy it. It was maybe the feel of the paper, I don't know, because it looks really cute, but I don't think I would use this one again for daily planning. And then this one is one of the ones that was kind of at the bottom of my stack, and I really wasn't that excited to use it, and that's because this had been used for something else already. I was using this as a notebook for a Welsh class that I was taking, and I just decided to try using it as a daily planner because it was lying unused. And I used it for one day. I used the monthly pages. This is a monthly planner combined with notes pages. So I thought it was a day when I didn't have a huge to-do list, so I thought I'll just use one of these monthly boxes. And I just couldn't really get that excited about it. I think mostly because it's not very suited in format to being a daily planner. It has these giant pages. It's B5 size, so it's quite big. So if you had a really, really massive to-do list one day, this page would be fine, but it's really more suited to notes, I feel like. And then on the other hand, it has these monthly boxes, which are really too small to use comfortably as a daily planner. So I knew that going into it, and I just decided to use it because the nature of the challenge that I had set for myself was to use all the different notebooks that I had that were currently not being used, or that, you know, I'd been afraid to crack open. So I wasn't shocked or surprised or really disappointed, but that was just my feeling. This is not good for a daily planner, which no one would probably have expected it to be, but there you are. Another one that I really like as a planner but that didn't work very well as a daily planner is this mini happy planner. Again, no surprise. I wouldn't have expected this to be a good daily planner. And really the reason is just because with these horizontal spaces, there's not a lot of room. And as you can see, the day that I used it, I think this was a day that I just came home in the evening. I started using this very late, probably like 10 or 11 at night. So I just made a short list of the things that I wanted to do before I went to bed, and it was fine. But one of the things that I like about daily planning is the feeling that you've got enough space to write down everything that you might want. And so psychologically, the day that I had decided to use this, that I'd pick this out, I knew that I wouldn't have a lot of space, and I think that kind of prevented me from really enjoying the daily planner to its fullest. So that's another one that I wouldn't be using again as a daily planner, but really no surprise there. Similarly, this one, again, it's a weekly planner. It just doesn't work very well as a daily planner, although as it happened, I did have enough space, but again, that's because I was using this very minimally. I didn't write down all of my to-dos for the day, which is what I like to do with a daily planner. And then my beloved Batman daily planner, which was actually, I believe, my first ever dedicated daily planner when I first had the idea to start using a daily planner in addition to my other planners, which are week to views. And I think that the only reason that I didn't love this more was because it had been used for a few different things. I'd used it for notes, I'd used it for some Welsh practice, I'd used it for a few different things, and so when it went back to being a daily planner for the one-day experiment, I kind of felt like I was using an old notebook, which just didn't feel as exciting. But I really do love this one. It's very good as a daily planner. It's the perfect size, this kind of A5 slim size, so I definitely will go back to using this again at some point. And then I have my classic size happy planner, which again, no surprise here. It's really not ideally suited to daily planning just because there is quite a bit of space, but I think because it doesn't have lines, I end up writing a lot bigger and then I feel limited. So again, this was just a very short, less than an evening's worth of planning. This was a list for about an hour, and I feel like I wouldn't be able to get the fullest out of a daily planner in this sort of layout, which, like I said, no surprise, it's not a criticism of the happy planner, it's just not the right layout for a daily planner. But because I was going through all of my unused planners and using them over the month, I decided to use this on one day. So I won't be using this again as a daily planner. Now, on to my favorites. So there are quite a few of these. I'll start with these two because these are identical, they just have a different cover. These are paper blanks, and I love paper blanks because they have incredibly beautiful designs, and you can see these two, how gorgeous they are. So it was a bit decadent of me using both of these, but that was the point of my OneBookJuly experience. I just wanted to use all the notebooks that I had and not feel like I had to save any for something better. So I really like this size. It's like a B6 size. It's called the MIDI in paper blanks language, but it's a B6. And I think it's a really good size for a daily planner. Obviously, the fact that it's an undated notebook means that you can use as many pages as you want, so the page size isn't a limitation. As it happened, this was that particular day. It's very fountain pen friendly, so that was nice. And I really like the paper, I like the feel, it's very satisfying. It just has a nice, sturdy, solid feel in the hand. Great quality. I love it. So that was nice. I'll definitely be using that again as a daily planner. And this one, exactly the same thing. So I really like these two. Then, this was an interesting experiment. This is the Erin Condren notebook that I received free with my Erin Condren order. And I wasn't really sure what to make of this because it's not something that I would have ordered on my own if I were paying for it. I like the Erin Condren hardbound, that's what I ordered that this came with, because I like the colors, I like the format, but this notebook, I kind of felt like, I suspected I wouldn't really like the paper and I just wasn't sure about it. So it was there on my shelf because I hadn't got rid of it. Obviously, hard to get rid of notebooks if you're a stationery addict. And so I just decided to try it. And I kind of surprised myself because I really liked it. And I think it's something to do with the size. As you can see here, this was a really full day's worth of notes. And this is, to me, the ideal spread for a daily planner. I really like having a nice long list that details most of the activities that I have to do during the day, whether they're mundane things like eat breakfast or wash dishes that I do every day, or specific things like a particular work task or something. So I felt like I had enough room. It was very satisfying from that point of view, and it's just somehow a really nice size. It's a bit slimmer than A5, but just like a very nice size, a nice thickness. The only thing about it that is kind of disappointing is the paper quality. A lot of bleed through and ghosting. So really for something like this, because it doesn't have to be pretty, that doesn't bother me so much. And I could either just write on one side or use the other side and I'd still be able to read it. So that doesn't bother me so much, but that's the one downside. But I think that this is really, really nice as a daily planner, and so I'll definitely put this in my stack of daily planners to use again in future. Because another conclusion that I have come to from this experiment is that I really like being able to change out my daily planner notebooks. And so if I have undated notebooks, then I can change them out as often as I want to. So every week or every month or whenever the fancy takes me. And that's a way to satisfy my planner addict constant desire for new planners and changing things up without having to mess up my system, which I don't like doing. So far I've got 3 planners that I really enjoyed that I can put on the shelf and just rotate them out as daily planners. The next one that I really enjoyed is this B6 Stylogy notebook, and as you can see, this is fantastic paper quality. It takes fountain pen really well, but it's very thin. It's like Tomoe River paper, and so it's a nice, like, chunky book. It has a lot of pages. I think it's 368 pages, so you could use this for a whole year if you wanted to, but because it's undated, you can switch it in and out with impunity. I like the size, I like the look. It's just a really nice notebook all around, and it fits in these Doki Book Disc Agenda Diva personal size covers. These also fit the mini happy planners, by the way. So this is another one that I'm definitely adding to my stack of daily planners to be used again. Then in the same vein, we have an A5 version. It's the same thing. This one I'd actually started using earlier as a daily planner. So you can see this is from last year. I was using this more than a year ago. And then this was the day that I used it in my current experiment. So I didn't have a lot of to-dos there. So This A5 page is actually probably more than I would need on most days, but I just like the fact that I have it all there and it's available, and if I have a very long list of to-dos, I don't have to worry about running out of space. Although obviously, because it's undated, that doesn't even matter. But this is definitely another one that I will be using again. Then I really enjoyed this Martha Stewart disc-bound notebook. I think I like the idea of disc-bound planners, but because I am really a bound planner person at heart, I feel like they kind of go to waste on me because I don't move things around. So I feel like there's not much point in having a disc-bound planner if you keep everything in the same place. So I never take anything in or out. But I think for a notebook, it's quite nice because if you run out of paper, if you use all the paper up, you just empty it out, recycle it, and put more paper in, and you get the same cover, so you have a feeling of continuity. So I quite like that. And again, because this is A5 or half letter size, which is almost the same as A5, there's lots of space to write, and the paper is reasonably good as well. So this was another really nice one that I will use again as a daily planner. Now we are getting to my very favorites. This is the cream of the crop. So this one is a Moleskine daily planner, and this one is dated, unlike most of the other planners that I've shown you. And unlike any of those in my favorite stack, this one is dated. So this I originally bought just because I really like these and I didn't have a clear idea what to use it for, and then I used it for a few things over the course of the year. And it was in the graveyard in the beginning of July, so I decided to add it to my OneBookJuly daily planner stack because it is a daily planner. And I absolutely love this. For one thing, the size is very good for a daily planner. It's again this A5 slim size, so it has lots of room. It has hours, which you can ignore as I've done here. I just covered them up with check boxes, or you can use it if you want to, which could be nice if you're making a daily to-do list and you want to have it roughly within a time scale and have an idea how long things will take you. And it's dated, which is a pro and a con. It's a pro because, you know, it's always nice to be able to see the date, but it's a con because if I want to switch in and out, then I was using this, then I'd end up with blank pages. The other con is dun, 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 terrible paper quality for fountain pens. And because this is dated, that makes it more difficult to just use one side of the paper. But with to-do lists, normally they're only on one half of the page, so there's actually still space here, and that's okay if you don't mind the terrible bleed through and ghosting. So this is another one that I definitely like to come back to. What I'm thinking is that for the rest of the year, so the second half of the year, that maybe I'll try to use this one as long as I enjoy it because it's dated, and then if I just get sick of it or fancy a change, I'll move into one of these undated ones for a while, then maybe move back into this so that I feel like I get as much use as possible out of this one, but I won't feel like I have to force myself to use it all year because then I would be guaranteed to get sick of it. So, my two favorites are the runner-up, the Big Happy Planner, undated, City Brights, or Big City Brights. So this is one, again, that I bought without having a clear idea of what I wanted to use it for, and it was just sitting on my shelf, and I thought, why not? It's a OneBookJuly, life's too short not to use your planners. And because it's undated, I thought I can just start using it, and then I can put it aside, and I don't have to worry about, you know, the clock ticking. And I told you before that I did not really enjoy using this classic size Happy Planner as a daily planner, but the Big Happy Planner is different because it's so big. So as you can see, it's a lot bigger than the classic size. So the paper size is, you know, it's considerably bigger. And that means that even though it doesn't have lines, I feel like there's enough space that if you compare it to an A5 sheet, obviously this is a lot bigger, but because a to-do list is generally pretty narrow, you actually get more space than you do in one of these A5 sheets. And it's quite rare that I would end up going to a double row, if you see what I mean. So usually in this space, I would be able to complete all of well, I would be able to put my whole list there, and so you actually get even more space here. And I just really like the fact that it's so satisfyingly big and chunky, and it's very solid feeling, especially in these covers. And I am also a sucker for disc bound. Like I said, I don't really need a disc bound planner because I don't move the pages in and out, but it's there, I have it, I really like it, it worked well for this, and obviously it's always fun to be able to fold it over on itself. So this was kind of a surprise because I didn't know how I'd feel. I'd never used a big happy planner before, but I really, really enjoyed it, and I'm definitely looking forward to using this again as a daily planner. And then finally, my absolute favorite, hands down, and this is the one that I went back to using in the last couple of days of the month just because I loved it so much, is this extra large Moleskine hardbound notebook in, I think it's called Willow Green. It's like a sage green, tea green color. And this is one of the few notebooks that I bought new sometime in July. Most of them were planners or notebooks that I'd already had, but there were a couple that I just crumbled. The other ones were 2 paper blanks that I showed you. And this one I just bought because I was like, it's One Book July, I can buy notebooks, I'm going to be using all of these notebooks. And I saw this one and I was intrigued because I'd never had an extra large hardbound notebook before. And it's just amazing. It's like a B5 size. Let me see if that's actually... this is B5, so it's actually about the same height as B5, but it's a bit wider, which is funny because their large size is kind of like an A5 but narrower, so this is the opposite of that. And I just don't know why I love it so much. I think it's the size, the fact that it's hardbound, so it makes it really satisfying, kind of like that Big Happy Planner. Because it's big, and because I don't take my daily planners out, so I don't need to carry them around, so the fact that they're big doesn't bother me. It just feels very sturdy and satisfying, and it's this great size where you can hold it and you can write and you never feel like your hand is about to fall off the page because there's so much room, and it just feels like opening a nice big sturdy hardbound book. It's just a great feeling, and it's also feels like it's just the right thickness. It's not too thick, so it feels like a giant weighty tome like a dictionary, but it's not too thin. There's something that's just perfect about it. It's ruled, and you have lots of room, as you can see here. So this is actually, I think, 2 days worth of lists, and I really just felt like I could do whatever I wanted. So I had a list here, then this was another to-do list, and then this was a packing list for the same day. And I just felt like I have oceans of space, and it's very satisfying. So one thing that is interesting that I've learned from this daily planner experiment is that the size of the planner seems to affect how much I write much more than I was expecting. So in days when I was using a planner that didn't have a lot of room, like this one where I used the monthly spread, and it was just this little box, I ended up just writing enough to fit in it. But on days when I had a giant planner at my disposal, I ended up writing a lot more. So I think that's kind of interesting. Obviously, to some extent it depends on the day, because there are some days where I started using it in the morning and carried on all the way through, and then there are other days where I didn't touch it until almost before I was going to bed, and I just made a quick list of things to do before bed. But I think some of that is to do with how much I enjoyed the planner, because if I really enjoyed it, like this one, I loved it so much the first day I used it that I was sad that I had to part with it, and I wanted to make as much use of it throughout the day as I could. And I think that really had a big effect on how much I wrote, how much I enjoyed it. So I think that is actually an important factor, which you might not have at the forefront of your mind. So I really like the space. I really like the feel of it with the hardback cover. I like the size, and most incredibly, and I still don't really understand this, this is a Moleskine. Look at that. Absolutely no bleed through and like relatively minimal ghosting. If you compare that to the Moleskine that I showed you earlier, which looked like this, same pen. Exhibit A, Exhibit B. Look at that. Tons of ghosting and bleed through. No bleed through, minimal ghosting. Like, I just don't understand it. I was so baffled by this. I thought that they must have changed their paper quality. And so I posted this on Instagram and I got a lot of interesting comments from people saying that they had had very different experiences with different Moleskines and that it might depend on the batch, when it was made, where it was made, even possibly the type of paper, as in if it's lined or dot grid. So interestingly, this one is dot grid and the paper quality is much worse, which I think is one of the suggestions that somebody made. But then the planner that I showed you earlier, the daily planner, which is lined just like this one, is also very bad for bleed through with the same pen. So I haven't got to the bottom of this mystery, but all I can say is I love this notebook and it works really well with my fountain pen. So this is the one that I actually went back to when I had decided at the end of the month. I was like, okay, I think I've had enough of the experiment. I just want to pick out the ones that I love the most and go back to them and use them for a while. This was the one that instantly came to mind. So I think that I'm probably going to carry on using this for a while because I just love it so much and I can't bear to give it up. And then when I start to get sick of it, I'll rotate out either for the big happy planner or, if I'm being prudent, for this one because it's dated. But these two are the ones that I really enjoyed the most of all. And it was interesting because I didn't know that that was going to happen. At the beginning of the month, I couldn't have predicted which ones I would like the most. So it's been a really, really great month. It's been a lot of fun. I'm so happy that I did this, and I think that I'm going to carry on with this kind of mentality of switching out the daily planners as, you know, like kind of as and when, because it's a lot of fun and it is a planner at extreme. So I hope you enjoyed this. Thank you for following me along in my crazy One Book July adventure, and I'll be back again very soon with another video. Bye!